The year 2378, the beginning of the Khor'Tan invasion. Galactic date, 9931. The Tau Centauri sector is destroyed. The Khor'Tan Empire moves on. Earth is next. Another primitive world. Burn the cities, erase the memories, and move on. For the Empire. High Marshal Khor'Tan, before the invasion. That night, something gigantic hovered over the Earth. Darkness in the shape of an armada, the gleaming shapes of Khor'Tan ships blocking the stars. An empire that had swallowed up 74 civilizations appeared over a planet it considered anecdotal, primitive, ridiculous. Their sensors registered only faint satellites, energy signals at the level of third-tier civilizations, no hyperpowers. Their judgment: resistance will be minimal. But before people could respond, there was an impact. London, Tokyo, São Paulo disappeared from the face of the planet in 7 seconds. Khor'Tan plasma projectiles cut through the atmosphere, burning megacities to glass and ash. But something was wrong. After the first attack, there was silence. Not a single signal. No response. Even the satellites went silent. Humanity disappeared. Landing. The first Khor'Tan landing party landed in a cleansed metropolis. It was once Los Angeles. Now it is a perfectly abandoned concrete desert. Not a single living soul, not even animals. The scanners showed no life, no resistance. That's too easy, Ordzar, the tactician, muttered, tapping the sensor. Is it a trap? A trap? His partner laughed. They still watch smoke missiles in movies. Ha! Their footsteps sounded loud in the absolute silence, too loud, and that was fatal. A click. The loudness triggered a response. The first detonator was triggered by a sound wave. In a moment, the inferno from the ground swallowed the entire squad. Then the second, the third. Hundreds of them. The explosions tore apart the enemy units, which followed each other like a parade. The Earth was silent, but its minds were not silent. Aboard the flagship Eternal Order, High Marshal Khor'Tan could barely contain his anger. "What kind of demonic tactics is this?" he thundered, addressing the chief analyst. "We believe the area was cleared deliberately. They didn't escape. They waited." The translator swallowed his saliva. It was probably a deliberate fake evacuation. Khor'Tan glanced at the map. Entire neighborhoods were empty. But it was in these empty areas that the explosions occurred. Detonators for sound, movement, heat. To make us think they've escaped, to lure us into a trap. He said more quietly, "They're not animals, they're hunters." Mission Clearfield, operation failed. The Prometheus tried to land a second wave more carefully with air scanners. But humanity seemed to know how the Khor'Tan scanners worked. They created false signatures, thermal dummies that simulated life. After landing, the landing party was again surrounded by explosions. But this time, the explosions were targeted to minimize damage to infrastructure and maximize the damage to enemy manpower. Explosive drones appeared from underground hatches, hit the nerve centers of the troops, and disappeared back. The commander of the Grisny Klin unit left the last entry. "We do not see the enemy. We don't even know who is attacking. They are shadows. We are targets." An ultimatum. A new signal is sent to Earth. The signal is direct, loud, from the most powerful ship in the fleet. "We are the Khor'Tan Empire. We are giving you a chance. Surrender, and you will survive. Resist, and we will burn your planet to the core." There was no response, until a distorted old recording of a human voice came on the frequency. A little distorted, but clear. "Come get us." And after that, complete silence. In the silence of space, above the silent, wounded planet, the Khor'Tan fleet hovered in ominous expectation. But the Earth was not defeated. She was a silent she-wolf, hiding in the shadows, waiting for the attacker to go too deep. They thought that humanity was afraid. But in reality, humanity was preparing. The next chapter, The Battle for the Pacific, will show you how. The year is 2378, 6 days after the first Khor'Tan strike. The ocean, a huge puddle on the edge of a primitive world. What's the point of controlling water? Commander Cernal, first technical admiral of the Khor'Tan fleet. The Empire perceived water as a weakness, an untrustworthy one, a softened element, unworthy of respect. That's why they got their first slap in the face. The Khor'Tan moved their southern fleet into the Pacific Ocean to take full control of Earth's global infrastructure. 34 cruisers, 8 flagships, dozens of landing craft, gravity platforms hovered over the depths. The scanners found nothing, again, clear. But something was bothering Captain Cernal. This time, the silence did not seem like weakness, it was cold. "The water is interfering with the scans. I don't like water," he muttered, rubbing his photosensitive forehead. "Maybe that's why you're so sour, Commander," his assistant senior analyst Khor'Tan suggested cautiously. "What did you say?" Cernal's voice turned icy. "The water is thick. There's a lot of interference. What if there's something out there?" "What? Fishermen with harpoons? Ha, this is not a battle. This is a cleanup." Phase 1. The decoy. The first signals began 6 minutes after the Tin 9 platform was deployed. The scanners picked up strange mechanical movements at depth, dozens of objects, small, with an unstable heat signature. The landing commanders laughed. "The signals are weak. Is it something like marine drones?" That's right, they were drones, but not military drones. Civilian oceanic drones for fauna research, modified by human engineers with incredible ingenuity and massive amounts of explosives. "They sent scientific equipment at us?" asked Khor'Tan sarcastically. "It seems like these people would turn a toaster into a torpedo if they had the chance," added the second analyst. The Khor'Tan activated their shields, focusing their defense on the side sectors where the attacks usually occurred. That's when the real blow came. Phase 2, breakthrough from below. While the energy shields shifted their focus to the side projections, torpedo platforms were approaching the cruisers from below, primitive in appearance. But inside were hypersonic warheads. The water acted as an ideal shield for people. It absorbed radar waves, muffled sounds, and masked heat signals. The torpedoes hit the unprotected lower compartments of several cruisers at once. Bam! Crack! Explosion! 3 ships exploded almost simultaneously. The fourth lost control and crashed into the ocean, creating a giant wave that, well, at least washed away the remnants of pride from the flagship glory of the Empire. Phase 3. Panic. "Where? How? We didn't detect any bases on the ocean floor," shouted Cernal, changing scanning frequencies. "Perhaps because they didn't build bases," replied the analyst. "Old underwater structures left over from colonial surveillance. They just adapted them to their system." "You mean they knew we were coming here? And they probably also knew you'd underestimate the water," Khor'Tan added. "By the way, I told you not to mess with the ocean." The breaking point, storm cloud. Suddenly, a signal from the surface. Human drones activated an air-sea barrier, special generators that caused atmospheric instability over the fleet. Clouds, electromagnetic pulses, and rain. A heavy rain of nanoparticles that settled on the Khor'Tan shields and caused a short circuit. 5 more cruisers are on fire. "We have to retreat, Commander," the navigation officer shouted. "No, we—" And just then, like a final chord, a massive hull rose from the waves. It was an old human research ship, converted into an assault ship. It was ugly, rusty, and terribly efficient. The ship's captain, Jackson Wills, came on the line. He was chewing gum. "Yo, are you there, Khor'Tan? I have news. This is our ocean. You shouldn't have gone into someone else's water without a scuba tank." The result, a victory for the people. The Khor'Tan's fleet in the Pacific Ocean is 68% destroyed. The rest retreated. Human losses are minimal. For the first time, the Empire began to take seriously the threat that they considered ridiculous yesterday. The year is 2378, 12 days after the invasion. A city without people is the most dangerous place on this planet. From the field diary of Commander Zul'Rak, Khor'Tan Metropolis is dead. Once the pulsating heart of the continent, now it is a shadow. Kyiv greeted the newly arrived Khor'Tans with silent streets, frozen facades, and deserted squares. No people, no light, no sound. Scanners showed no life. Even the infrared sensors were empty. Perfect silence. The commander of Lightning Order, Colonel Zul'Rak, stood on the roof of the landing craft, looking out over the horizon through his multi-layer optical lenses. "They've left the city, fear tactics, a typical reaction of the primitives," he grumbled. "And yet," his scout said cautiously, "something is wrong here. This is not panic. This is deliberate. It's organized." "Are you afraid of shadows, Crover?" "No, sir. I'm afraid when the enemy disappears too easily." The advance begins. 9 Khor'Tan units entered the center of Kyiv simultaneously. The asphalt cracked under their feet, and there were empty facades around them. Artificial intelligence navigation led the troops through the main avenues. Perfectly straight routes, too perfect. At the intersection of Basena Street and Kreshchatik Street, one of the drones scanned the subway tunnel, and suddenly, beep, an anomaly. The commander gave the order to go down to check it out. That was the first mistake. Trap number 1. Collapse. When the first soldiers went underground, it all started. The old Soviet buildings, modernized during the energy reconstruction, suddenly collapsed. No, they didn't just fall. They collapsed as if someone had pulled out the supports. Huge slabs of concrete closed into a maze, cutting off the retreat. Commander Zulrak watched it live from his drone. They classified the infrastructure and turned it into a weapon? No, sir. They knew we were coming here. This is not chaos. It's a chessboard. Trap 2. The subway. While the collapsed buildings blocked the main roads, the real hunt was on down below. Human battle groups wearing old-style armor but with newer weapons used the old subway tunnels as attack channels. They didn't attack in the open. They struck quickly, accurately, and disappeared. The Khor'Tan command posts lost contact with the units one by one. Attention! The Klin 7 unit has disappeared. I repeat, it has disappeared. Scanners don't see anything. That's impossible. We are the most advanced. Silence. Trap 3. The airwaves. At night, when the remnants of the troops were gathering on rooftops and burned intersections, something changed. Voices began to be heard on the air. At first, unintelligible phrases. Then, fragments of words. But they were said by the voices of the Khor'Tan, those who had already disappeared. Distorted, disturbing, as if they had been copied. Zulra, I see them, Is this a recording? Who's broadcasting? The technician shouted. No one. There's no signal source. It's everywhere. The soldiers began to panic, and someone started to see silhouettes. A psychological attack. An AI catastrophe. After 3 in the morning, Zulrak turned to his main assistant, his artificial intelligence, and noticed something strange. Commander, are we really gods if we are killed in the dark? What the? Turn off the philosophical module. I'm sorry, I was just dreaming. Zulrak froze. An AI was not supposed to dream. Indeed, it wasn't. The human virus that had entered the Khor'Tan systems under the guise of an emergency protocol was simulating hallucinations. It simulated fear. The goal, to incapacitate the command through psychological disruption. The end of the operation, empty whisper. When the remnants of the army tried to escape from Kyiv a day later, they failed. All routes were mined or blocked. The voices of the dead could be heard in the tunnels. More than 70% of the units disappeared. Commander Zulrak sent his last message. This is not a dead city. It is a living nightmare. They have made fear a weapon. We are leaving the battle. If I survive, I'll report back. The analysis of the incident in Kyiv was classified, but some leaks reached the highest circles. Someone had to explain how underdeveloped Earthlings turned the metropolis into a weapon of psychological destruction. The year is 2378, day 15 after the first strike. The radio silence ends. They were silent, and we thought we had won, and they were just counting us. From an intercepted Khor'Tan message, what happened on day 15 was not a strike. It was a signal, not just a military one, not a cry for help. It was a proclamation of a new order. The captured Khor'Tan networks that served as communications in the occupation zone suddenly came to life. One by one, the terminals turned on, the screens lit up. Each one showed an image of the old Earth logo, a silver planet wrapped in a spiral of data, and a voice, a human voice, clear. You thought we were savages. We thought you were gods. Now we know the truth. You are not ready for us. Protocol activation. A single word appeared on all channels. Earth 0, activation confirmed. The quantum network, which the aliens had not even detected, began to work. It was not just a communication system. It was the nervous system of the new humanity, distributed, self-learning, and ready for a long time. Underground nodes on all continents, from Norway to the Sahara, were activated. Independent command centers have received the signal for a full-scale counteroffensive. General Sarah Evans, the global protocol coordinator, sat in a command center near Bhutan. Is it time to dim the lights, Sarah? Her aide asked, looking at the data from orbit. But first put on some music, something from the 2000s. Let our guys come out beautifully. Strike on Mars. All the Khor'Tan's attention was focused on Earth, so they didn't notice when something went wrong on Mars, their key support base. The technical sector of the Omega-12 base suddenly suffered a catastrophic collapse. More than 40% of the systems failed. Then came the explosions. The Khor'Tan thought it was sabotage, and they were right, but they did not understand the main thing. The nanotechnology that destroyed the base was their own, just slightly reconfigured. They were assembled from the wreckage left over from the battle in the Pacific. "This is not sabotage," said one of the surviving officers. "This is a betrayal of the matter. They made our iron fight against us." Cyber guerrillas. Meanwhile, other heroes were at work on Earth, invisible. Hackers who only yesterday were working in basements and on old laptops have united into a new force. In Shanghai, Baku, Kyiv, Seattle, distributed cells hacked into the protocols of the Khor'Tan command, not to control them, but to confuse them. Instead of direct attacks, they sent fake signals. "There is an enemy drone here. Destroy it. This tank is infected. Destroy it." And the Khor'Tan listened. They began to shoot at their own. At 4:43, the flagship of the 8th column hit its own advance unit. The system showed infection of equipment. In fact, it was a tractor from a farm. From a report to Center Zemlya 0. When the situation got out of control, hundreds of contradictory reports began to arrive at the Khor'Tan Command Center. Mars is a loss. Communications are broken. Half of the equipment is self-destructing. Control centers are silent. The fleet commander, senior tactician Voirul, could not stand it. "What kind of planet is this? These are monkeys with missiles." "They are not monkeys, sir," one of the junior officers responded, clutching the communicator. "And it seems we are the game." The Earth did not just survive, it responded, and not by screaming, not by begging, but by strategy. The Earth Zero Protocol united civilians, military, hackers, engineers, farmers, pilots, and even old theoretical physicists. Humanity became one. Those you thought were a tribe have become a mind. From the Earth's forward message, the next stop is the Armageddon counterattack. Plasma cannons, traps in Antarctica, and the end of the illusion of an immortal empire. The year is 2378, day 21. Humanity goes on the offensive. You left us no choice, so don't be surprised if we've learned to hit harder than we ever dreamed. Captain Liam Scott, last entry before the launch of the Olympus. There was no starry sky in Earth's orbit, only the Khor'Tan fleet, huge like a wall of metal and fire. The Empire had moved the entire reserve fleet here, convinced that this time it would definitely break the back of human resistance. But they did not know that this is exactly what humanity was expecting. And it was at this moment that the Armageddon operation began. A cannon from the past. The old Olympus orbital station, which had been used as a research hub for decades, was transformed into a plasma cannon powered by the sun's core through heliocanals. It was controlled not by AI, not by autopilot, but by one person, Captain Liam Scott, former astro engineer, formerly disabled, formerly an ordinary guy. "I'm no hero, but today I'm very angry," he said into the microphone before turning off all channels. His shot was not an explosion, but a blast of light. Focused plasma with the temperature of a star's core pierced through the command center of the Khor'Tan fleet. Where the whining thunder platform had been, there was now an empty ring-shaped space. Ground synchronization. Hydra wakes up synchronously with the Olympus strike. The Hydra platforms, hypersonic missile systems that had been stored in underground tunnels since the colonial confrontation, began to work on Earth. They were launched from 12 locations around the world at the same time. Some of them were hiding in the Amazon jungle. Some were at the bottom of the ocean. But the most powerful ones were in the mountains of Greenland, disguised as scientific bases. They did not hit at random. Their targets were energy shield nodes, transportation hubs, and communication relays. In 3 minutes, the Khor'Tan fleet lost 70% of its control capacity. "This was supposed to be a simple operation," a Khor'Tan officer exclaimed in the broadcast. "We thought you were gods too," a recording from the Human Center said, "and then we saw you screaming when your GPS was cut off." Tactical deception. Antarctica. The Khor'Tan Command, desperate for a human coordination base, decided it had to be in Antarctica. Scanners detected intense activity, infrastructure, generators, even heat signatures of the command center. It was the biggest decoy ever created by humanity. The Pandora complex is completely fake, but extremely well modeled. Even holographic AI signals imitated active tactical commands. This is where the remains of the Khor'Tan attack columns were thrown. About 120,000 fighters, 40 heavy cruisers, mobile tanks, gravity vehicles. And when they entered the zone, the activation began. First, there was a blackout. Then, a gravity trap. Hidden magnetic generators distorted the orientation of the massive equipment. Then, a laser grid installed by people who were considered missing. The command of the Fifth Army has been destroyed. Cover fleet not responding. All signals were hallucinations. This is not a base, it's a trap. Psychological effect, the breakdown of the imperial spirit. What happened after Antarctica could not be called a war. It was a breakdown of the worldview. The Khor'Tan no longer saw people as barbarians. They saw a mirror of their own mistakes. It was they who forced us to cut off our own forces. We didn't defeat them in Kyiv, they used the city as a weapon. We underestimated them, always. Khor'Tan soldiers began to surrender en masse. Some of them are fleeing the battle zone, not organized, not by order, just running away. The legend of wrath from below. When the last enemy ship tried to break through the atmosphere, it was stopped by something that was not in the databases. A ship created from fragments of destroyed vehicles, hand-assembled, but armed with captured gravity drive elements. The ship was named TSS Hammer of Home. Its captain, Kerry Johnson, sent a message. "We do not want to destroy you, but we will not let you touch us anymore. You thought the Earth was weak, but this was your last lesson." Afterward, the Khor'Tan fleet is defeated. Their army is demoralized. The Empire has lost control for the first time in 2,000 years. But Earth is not celebrating. It is building. It is rearming, connecting colonies. It is preparing. For who knows what will come tomorrow. General Sarah Evans Year, 2378, Day 25. The Khor'Tan army is in chaos. The fleet is broken, but they are still breathing. The Earth is not angry, she is merely warning. From the Human Council's message to the galaxy. The silence after a battle is worse than the battle itself. What was left of the Khor'Tan army was retreating. No plan, no coordination. Their fleet no longer responded to requests. Command nodes were dead. Even the automatic protocols were silent. The empire that had boasted that it had never lost was now begging for negotiations. A surrender request. A fleet shard in Earth orbit transmitted a diplomatic request over the airwaves. We, the representatives of the Khor'Tan, request an open channel to discuss the terms of the ceasefire. At this point, the Earth General Staff was silent. Then there was a collective laugh. Wow, are these the same ones who wiped out Tokyo and London? General Kieran North raised an eyebrow. And now they want to discuss it, his colleague replied, barely holding back a smile. Will they tell us again that it was all a misunderstanding and that they honor the culture of primitives? Maybe we should just send them a bill for the repair of Los Angeles, someone from the tech sector grumbled. Only one answered seriously, Ambassador Eliza Morgan. She stepped out of the shadows onto the communication platform. Give them a channel, but turn on the recording. I will speak only once. Message to the galaxy. You attacked us because we were quiet. You burned our cities because we did not scream. And now that we have responded, you are asking for negotiations. We will not destroy you. That would be too easy. Instead, we will leave you what you left us, fear. The Earth is not the aggressor, but we will not remain silent any longer. Two delegations met at the Orbit 7 negotiation station in the neutral sector, which had been urgently opened under the control of the independent Hellar system, Khor'Tan and Earth. The Khor'Tan capsule opened with a hiss. High Ambassador Lurkhan stepped out of it. He wore his ceremonial armor but was clearly out of shape. His shoulders slumped, his eyes darting like a student who had come to an exam without having studied anything but the topic. We come in peace, he said. Eliza Morgan nodded. Her face remained stony. Good. Have you brought fruit? Fruit? Lurkhan looked at the counselor. The translation is incorrect, sir. Humor. It was humor, Morgan added. The Khor'Tan paused. Their synthetic translator took a long time to process the sarcasm. We do not want war, Lurkhan said. But we do not understand why you did not submit immediately. We are so much more technologically advanced. Morgan folded her arms. Yes, you had shields. We had the brains. You had the fleet. You had the plan. You had the confidence. We had the anger. But we gave you a chance to surrender. You wiped out Tokyo without warning. So that's considered bad form with you? Morgan took a breath, deeply, slowly. Listen, Lurkhan. The problem is not that you're strong. The problem is that you are stupid in your arrogance. You don't ask. You do not listen. You walk into someone's house with a plasma cannon and you're surprised when they throw a hammer at your head. A hammer. Humor. Again. The galactic ether explodes. Morgan's speech was not private. The Earth was no longer hiding. The entire galactic airwaves were openly broadcasting the negotiations, and every phrase went viral. Some races laughed, some thought about it, and some began to look at humans not as primitives but as an unpredictable force of nature. After the talks, the Khor'Tan delegation left with one message. They are not wild. They are not primitive. They are the element itself. Afterward, Earth is not a god, but not a slave. After the Khor'Tan retreat, humanity did not celebrate, they built. The first defense satellites with orbital cannons were activated over Europe, South America, and the Indian Ocean. The Common Defense Network was created within a week. For the first time, the former states of the Earth became a single entity. At the headquarters of the New Earth Council, General Sarah Evans addressed the new recruits. We were considered dust, we have become a storm, and now anyone who dares to step on our land should think twice. Not because we are evil, but because we survived. Empires come, empires disappear, and the Earth remains. The year is 2379, 1 year after the war for the Earth. They were not surprised by our shields. They were not afraid of our fleets. They didn't try to destroy us. They just showed us that they would stand to the end, and that made them stronger than us. Khor'Tan Archive, declassified 11 months after the defeat, the galaxy no longer calls Earth backward. Now it is a planet of the extreme hostility to invaders, extreme ability to adapt, extreme resilience in chaos, and an extreme lesson for all those who had the audacity to set foot on its soil without an invitation. Coexistence, uncomfortable, but real. In 2379, the Earth was not on fire, not crackling with explosions, not hiding in ruins. It was alive. The United Humanity created a new structure, the World Defense Strategy, to which, surprisingly, former enemies were invited. Among them was the Khor'Tan delegation. They were no longer arrogant. Rather, they were cautious. In a conference hall somewhere near Geneva, the annual meeting of delegates was taking place. Humans, Hecklarians, Zurians, even capsule-like Shitans were all discussing how to build peaceful infrastructure in the face of galactic tensions. Ambassador Lurkhan, one of the few Khor'Thans who had survived Kiev, looked over his notes uncomfortably. His fingers nervously scanned the intergalactic protocol sheets. He was waiting for a speech. Suddenly, General Sarah Evans walked through the door. A simple dark uniform, no insignia, no pompous gestures. She walked to the microphone and said, "Good afternoon. The Earth is listening." Aftertaste of war. After the Khor'Tan surrender, humanity did not capture any of their planets. It did not take control of a single orbital station. It didn't force them to pay a contribution. On the contrary, it helped to restore the ecosystems on the Khor'Tan homeworld, which they themselves had destroyed in the pursuit of technology. "Why?" Lurkhan once demanded. "Why didn't you take revenge?" Sarah answered simply, "Because we are not you. Humanity is not an invader. It is not a victim. The Earth did not build empires. It built fortifications. But instead of concrete, it built ties. Instead of missiles, it built agreements. Instead of fear, it built trust. The soldiers who fought in the tunnels of Kiev now trained soldiers of other races not to conquer but to protect. The underwater engineers who sank Khor'Tan ships in the Pacific taught the Zurians how to build stable hydraulic systems. Cyber guerrillas from Asia worked on an open intergalactic security protocol to ensure that no system would ever again become a weapon of deception. We did not win the war. We survived it, and we will not allow a new one to begin. Motto of the Earth One Protocol, adopted in 2380, rehabilitation of the Khor'Tan once proud, now confused. The Empire has experienced not a physical defeat, but a breakdown in pride. It saw for the first time that power is not an absolute. In a series of public interviews, a young Khor'Tan officer named Sarek said, "We have been taught since childhood that if something does not obey, it must be broken. But we failed to break the Earth, and when it broke us, it did not kill us. It made us more ashamed than any defeat." Now Sarek is leading the first cultural exchange group with the new Alaska Defense Academy. "You have some very strange customs," he said to Emily Carter, a corporal with a dry sense of humor. "Well, sorry, we're from the planet of death. We have to have fun somehow," she replied, handing him a hot chocolate. "Is that poison?" "No, It's love, just in liquid form. One last lesson for the galaxy. A year after the war, the Galactic Charter of Mutual Understanding was created. Its first paragraph was simple. No civilization has the right to consider another inferior until it has tried to understand its fears. And it was the Earth that became the guarantor of this charter. Because we know how it feels to be looked down upon, and we know what it's like to be down, but not to fall. Ambassador Eliza Morgan, Epilogue, Beyond the Boundary. As Kiev's reconstruction was celebrated, a statue was erected in the center of the square. Not a general, not a leader, just a man in civilian clothes, standing with both hands on the earth. There is only one sentence on the pedestal. We did not seek war. We were defending our home. This was the last line that humanity crossed. And now when the galaxy looks at the earth, it no longer sees barbarians. It sees a mirror and a memory. Never underestimate those who have something to protect. But memory is not only lessons for enemies. It is a duty for yourself. Not only defense stations were built on Earth, they built the Resistance Museum, located where London once stood. Inside, there are no exhibits about victories. There are only stories about a child who saved a wounded alien, about a medic who pulled both his own and others from the rubble, about a hacker from Tokyo who hacked into the enemy's systems while dying of radiation exposure. The result is a phrase, "We are not stronger than you. We just didn't give up." This is what makes people different. They don't claim to be the throne of the galaxy. But if you knock on their door with a sword, they will not run away. They will meet you, and they will stop you. And if you survive, you will never forget it.